JB here, JB here. Hope everyone's doing outstanding. Friday, October 3rd, 9/16. Uh, sorry about that. Talk really quick about the market. Some names I'm looking at go from there. S&P futures pretty much flat as a pancake here. Well, almost NASDAQ and S&P up just a hundredth of a percent here. Small caps are actually up a third of a percent. And all eyes on that September jobs report. Just joking aside, someone I'm not sure why no one alerted me to the fact that the data was being held back. I saw news hitting, but I didn't know that was the jobs report. But looks like all data is on hold until the government shutdown is put to rest. So even if they have the data, you would assume someone has the jobless numbers for September, the jobs report, they're just not going to release the data. So um, nothing much in the way of catalyst today. I think there's some Fed speak, but outside of that, it looks like more chop yesterday. Another, uh, I would say lackluster session. I don't know if that's the best way to describe it, but yields ticked down. Markets were in a tight trading range, reversed, hit the highs at the open, dipped down to lows and bounced, and then decent up 10, what, 2/10% on NASDAQ, 0.1% on the S&P, and 5 sessions in a row of the upside. We'll see if we make it 6 here today. So that's kind of the overall markets. Leave it to Market Watch. I always look for comedic relief in the morning. Another great headline. The AI bubble is 17 times the size of the dot-com frenzy. I mean, what a great headline. Sure to get lots of clicks. A little sarcasm here. There's actually some decent read in that headline, and I posted a link in a watch list. It's always good to hear both sides of the story. I'm not saying that we're going to go on an epic bull run from here over the next 12 months. I also don't think that we're going to have a 50% correction or big bear market in the next 12 months. But it's always good to hear both sides of the story. But just funny stuff to read this morning if you get a chance. It's like, why not round it up to 20 times the size of the dot-com frenzy? It's just funny headline. Anyway, so that's kind of like the overall markets. The SPY 667 to 660 was the range going into the week. Obviously, we got above that yesterday, closed 669 and change. And now you look at the upper Bollinger Band, 672. So kind of watching that here this morning. Maybe we find some resistance there if we get a rally. On the flip side, 666. If that we can't hold over that, maybe I'll look for some spec lotto puts here until the end of the day. I don't think that'll be the case, but open to both sides of the tape. All right, so that's overall market. Now just quick on individual names. First, I was going to talk about Nike, but I'll talk really quick about Reddit. Here's a name I've been trading since April, on and off. Lotto calls, some weekly strikes, mostly closer dated strikes because the premiums are insane to try and trade, or at least for how I trade on a individual basis, right? For me, I like to trade inexpensive options, right? I don't go close into money strikes, especially on a volatile name like Reddit, because I'm here for the leverage, right? I'm here for the 1,000%, 2,000% gains. I'm not here for a 20% scalp. So because of that, there's a lot of times you look at the Reddit calls and puts, and they are expensive for how I want to trade it. And as the week progresses, the weeklies, obviously the time decay, the premiums come down. So sure enough, I've been watching Reddit all week, and it's down 16% this week. You had that piece coming out that supposedly Reddit citations are going down to 5% from 25% from Chat GPT. I guess there's other worries, right? But outside of that, there was no analyst changes, and there was some comment I think on Wednesday in regards to the rumor that came out that tanked the stock in the pre-market. But outside of that, no analyst defending the stock yesterday, and then throughout the day it was like, why was Reddit down 16%? So some of that too, and I was talking about yesterday, was like AI destruction week. Some of the names that were supposedly going to get impacted from AI haven't been disrupted so much. The names like Wix, DocuSigns, talk about Adobe. And then finally this week, it's like they decide, okay, this is the week we're going to sell those names off. So I don't know if that was some of it either, but then you take a look at the calls yesterday afternoon. I'm looking for some lottos, and I'm watching Reddit all day for a bounce. It was kind of like muddling around, and it gets down to 200, almost like lifeless. And I'm like, oh, I look at the 220s, like, wow, they're 20 cents. I mean, rarely do you see a strike. And mind you, it's the date of expiration, 10% out of money. To see a contract at 20 cents, you'd think you're crazy to even think of adding a lotto call with, whatever hours of trading left in the week. But I look at it, I'm like, wow, this is a great opportunity, because not only you don't need Reddit to go to 220 for those calls to pay out by expiration Friday. You just need a couple percent and maybe a couple percent gap. And we're getting it here this morning. And there were no analyst changes this morning until just after the watch list came out. But Piper Sandler, JMP Securities both came out, just reiterated their outperforming buy ratings with their $290 and $300 price target. I don't know if that's some of the reason we're bouncing here this morning, but good thing for my calls here. So the lotto calls, which I got them at, was it 20 cents, 21 cents? I don't even know what my average was, but 22 cents. At times yesterday afternoon after I got them, the premiums, they were up 50%. So yeah, could I have taken some off to cover costs? But that's not how I trade, right? Usually I wait for 100%. But you have to think it's gapping here this morning at 212, or 211.80 right now. Have to think those calls are going to be a buck 60, maybe $2 at the open. Wishful thinking, maybe. Well, the issue with Reddit though is the calls. Well, the option market tends not to open right at 9:30, which is frustrating as heck, especially when you have a position that's going to be volatile, right? I mean, it can open at 212 here. The option market doesn't open. Those calls probably $1.60, $1.80, and then the stock goes down to 208 by the time the option market opens at 9:36, and those calls will be 40 cents. So cross the fingers. Hopefully the option market opens quickly. Hopefully it holds the gains here. You look at Reddit. I mean, again, down 16% this week. 50-day moving average sitting there at 221 and change. Call me crazy. I see this trading over 220 today. So if that's the case, obviously the call is going to pay. But Reddit Friday. Hopefully that's what the end of today looks like, and lock some great gains on Reddit. Also, might look for some strikes into next week, depending on what it does here today. So that's Reddit. So thankfully, it looks like it'll be a strong end to the week. So quick on some other names. JOBY still eyeing some more strikes here. I still have a few October 20s. Looking yesterday, I'm like, if it holds 18, maybe I'll get some strikes. Sitting here at 17.94 in the pre-market. If I do get some more calls, it's going to be the January variety. So maybe, call me crazy, 28 bucks, 29, even higher strikes on JOBY. And same with SERV Robotics here. Still being patient on my October and January's calls. Had already locked most of the Octobers in anyway. It's sitting here, hit $13 in the pre-market. I'm going to wait for 13.75 to break before I add more strikes there. Nike on the watch list yesterday morning. I'm like, if it holds 75, I'm going to get some strikes to play for a move possibly to 77 and beyond. Sure enough, it holds 75 at the open. I go and get those $80 strikes. And then within a matter of 10 minutes, it's at 77 bucks. Use that move to close some of the calls out for 100% to cover costs. And then it just sold off, right? It goes from green to red into the afternoon. Disappointing. And it's like telling action, right? It's almost like the bulls are not ready yet to hit the, well, I wouldn't say hit the buy button, but to push through resistance. And the bears are saying, not yet, right? And it's just so disappointing to watch Nike. At some point, I look for more calls to play for upside, but I lock the rest of the strikes in just to protect the profits. The other thing, it's stuck at its 50-day moving average, 74.46. It's 74.78 here in the pre-market. So maybe I'll just pass on adding any more strikes just yet and be patient. XYZ doing what it should have done Tuesday on Thursday, closing up 4%. Not boggles my mind, but frustrating. I put on a watch list this morning. I don't want XYZ to be like the trade desk, right? So I had those TTD $50 strikes. Those didn't pay out. And then what happens the following Monday? Boom, 50 bucks. Those calls would have been a couple 100%. So I don't know how the market gods are going to treat this. So I don't want to be in a spot where XYZ goes on a bonkers rally to start next week. So I might get some strikes into next week to play for that eventual move over 80 bucks. Some other names going, Edit just keeps going higher. It's actually $4 here in the pre-market. Still have my January $5 calls. I might, I was talking about getting the 750 calls a couple weeks back. I might just close the rest of the $5 strikes and get the inexpensive 750s and then just continue to hold those. But nice to get some profits on that one. Cardlytics yesterday morning had that news about cutting staff, and then the stock floundered at the open. That was disappointing, but a good sign. I was able to bounce it to the afternoon, went red to green into the close. Not going to add any more strikes here just yet. And then other names, I talk about, the Adobes at some point, I was talking about the AI smash up. I still looking at Adobe. I still think that trades south of the 330 in the coming weeks, and if not substantially lower. So I'll continue to look for opportunities on that one. Duolingo, thankful to have locked my calls out on Monday. And then it's down 4% on the week, waiting for that W bottom formation to play out. I'm not sure if I'm going to do some lottos here today. And then I might be a little aggressive here on the lottos today. MDB, I might dabble some calls. Been waiting for that one to get some legs again. 345 plus. It should be trading. It's down here 326, so maybe some 330 lottos. And that's about it, folks. Let's have a great day. I'll be back on audio later. Rock and roll.